Hey, good morning. How y'all doing today? Welcome to Ask Jenée. This is my second show of the Entrepreneurship series. And today we are going to welcome Mahaffay of Mahaffay Amplifiers. Just a quick little bit about me. I am an accountant and an enrolled agent and also an entrepreneur. I'm a solo practitioner. So I kind of get, understand what it means to become an entrepreneur and what it takes to be one. So, anyway, I wanted to do an entrepreneurship series, and the series, I don't know if you've ever been interested in owning your own business and you're really not quite sure what to do to start a business, or if you're even one of those that would want to be an entrepreneur and own your own business. I scroll through the internet and Facebook and whatever, and I see daily these, get rich quick schemes. Join our little course and pay the $99, and then you get nothing but a little internet hack, and then something. I really wanted to do something real, so and something that would be valuable, and I'm not asking for any money. I just want to have some fun. So today we are welcoming Mahaffay from Mahaffay Amplifiers. And so let's go ahead and get started and invite him in. Hello, Tris.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. It's another day in sunny, hot California.
I know, but the weather here is better than really anywhere else. I wouldn't
Yes.
want to be anywhere else. So anyway, grateful to be in Southern California.
Well, this is
So,
so fun, you creating this channel. I'm so happy for you to do this, and thank you for having me on. This is really cool.
oh, I'm just really excited that you agreed to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm just really grateful. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about Mahaffey amplifiers. So I see, and as the viewers may see, you've got a beautiful studio behind you.
Yes, I
And
do.
yes, and so um, you get to go live from your beautiful studio, and we're really happy. So I just wanted to dive in a little bit, and I'm
Sure.
gonna share some stuff up on the screen here um, about
Um,
your history. And the biggest part of the show, I think, and as I'm going to tell the viewers, I hope if you become an entrepreneur, it's really a lot more than just trying to make a buck. You really got to have a passion. There's got
yeah.
to be something in you that drives you to the point that you're willing to work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day sometimes if you got to do it, and you sacrifice, and you miss your friends on the weekends and all the stuff that goes along with being an entrepreneur. But
Hmm.
one thing that that drives us is something that we're passionate about. And for you, I believe that was music, and that was in your roots, and that goes all the way back to your father.
Hmm.
And I would like to ask you to tell us a little bit about your dad.
Sure. So, Chuck Mahaffey, my father, was a musician. He graduated from the University of Washington in the 50s and for a communications degree. So he went to school, he got his degree, he was well schooled, and he jumped into music. Well, he was always actually into music, but what happened was he ended up taking on a job in town, and I think it was KOMO in Seattle, and actually was there for the launch of the station. And so he immediately went on television. And then from that, he, of course, went into radio. Well, he'd always been a performing musician, and that never stopped. So his group, which was Chuck Mahaffey Individuals, played all the after hours clubs in Seattle. And talk about entrepreneur, right? So he's
Yeah.
doing multiple things at the same time. So
Right.
he put out a couple records. You know, he got signed by a subsidiary of Atlantic Records. Those albums are still available. There they are. Yes. Um, One of his claims to fame is he actually discovered a young guitar player, Larry Coryell, who of course is credited with he's the father of jazz fusion guitar, who went on to move to New York and did all sorts of wonderful things in his career. But you know, his passion in music is what drove his entrepreneurship of creating a true business, and he was a business, you know, from selling his music to being on television and radio. So um, he was in jazz and bossa nova, so that kind of took a hit, which is what we have to do as entrepreneurs. We got to watch trends,
Right.
and you know, when the Beatles hit and things really started cooking in the '60s, he found that he was a little out of place as far as live music goes, and then he focused on mostly radio from that point on. So yeah, that's his story. And of course, me growing up and being aware, even though he was in Seattle, I had moved to Southern California with my mom and family. But yeah, I mean, his legacy seems as strong or stronger now. I get a lot of mail regarding his music, and in fact, he's been featured on a few Northwest compilation CDs that have been put out, and we do have something in the works for an entire memorial sort of package of his music and video.
Wow,
YouTube,
that's really good.
yeah, YouTube has all of his. He was smart enough to record his broadcast when he was on King Television and Como in Seattle in the '60s. So that's actually up on YouTube. So, anyways, that's the
Yeah,
history.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now didn't you find something in a box one day?
Uh, oh, yeah, a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, he worked with a gentleman by the name of Bob Alcivar, who helped create the Fifth Dimension. He worked with Jimi Hendrix's father. He worked with Ray Charles, Bing Crosby, and I think what you're alluding to is he also worked with Quincy Jones. And Quincy was a very close friend of his during certainly in the '50s. And a lot of the difference with my dad was a lot of people left Seattle, it's, especially during the downturn in Seattle, the '60s, with Boeing was kind of struggling and things like
Mhm.
that. And he stayed put. But yeah, after he passed away, we went to retrieve his personal items in his apartment, and we found a letter from Quincy Jones directed to him, and it was around in the '60s, and it basically said, it was addressed from New York City, and it said, "Chuck, where are you? You should be here with us."
Yeah.
And he loved Seattle. He was a historian of Seattle, and he just couldn't make that jump. But I can't help feeling that he probably would have been, you know, the next Carson or Mike Douglas or something like that, because he
Right.
was all over television at the time. So
Right.
yeah, that was an amazing letter to have.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really something.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So his music really had a big influence on you because you then became, you know, a drummer and originally, right?
Yeah.
And then switched later to guitar because you preferred playing the guitar, I guess.
Well, what happened, the story of that is I was a drummer. And then when I moved to Southern California, I met Steve Greco, my best friend in fifth grade, and he was a drummer. And so yeah, there we go. And, well, you can't have two drummers. I guess you can, but
Yeah, Godsmack, I think does something.
yeah. So one day we got a ride to school from his mom. She was such a sweetheart. And we were debating on, you know, who's going to take guitar and who's going to take drums. So his mom flipped a coin,
Oh, no
and,
kidding.
and I lost.
You lost.
I lost.
Oh, wow.
So then Steve, which is really funny, he played guitar and drums, showed me my first two chords, I think.
Oh, no
He
kidding.
was my first
That's
guitar
right.
teacher. And then, you know, I just took it from there. And then we ended up playing, yeah, like that was Los Alisos in seventh or eighth grade.
Yeah.
Just played these little gigs I'm surprised you have that picture. That's so funny. Yeah. That's let's see, that's Steve, myself, Sean Godkinicht, and Ron Anderson, who was a
Yeah.
phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the story. That band was called Oasis. So, and yet somebody else stole our name. That's happened many times.
Yeah, I know. Apparently someone did.
Anyways, yeah. So that's that.
Yeah, so you went on, and you started playing with other bands. Your current band, well, Striker, back in the day it was called Striker, but you kind
Yep.
of changed it to the original Striker because there's another Striker somewhere.
There's like 5 of them, I think.
Yeah, yes. So I remember back in the day at the Woodstock, and if you actually look at the center picture, that was Missouri Compromise. That
Yes.
place was kind of a famous little club in Southern California. A lot of bands really played there. A lot of really good talent came out of Orange County, and played at Missouri Compromise. So that was a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Stryker is, well, Stryker went on hiatus from 1984 to 2011.
yeah.
Count the years. And we got back together for my birthday. And then, as it turns out, we had so much fun that we've been playing ever since. And we're far too old to be rock stars, but we sure have a lot of fun. We play the whiskey and we play the coach house. And, we're fine with that. We do that,
Mhm.
and that keeps my mind on the music. And all original members. It's still Steve Greco, Ben Weiner on vocals, Bill
Mhm.
Crowder, and myself. I mean, we record and rehearse where I'm sitting right now. And I mean, I couldn't think of a better thing to do in our third stage of life. Is it third stage of life? I think so.
Yeah, it's pretty much. Well, you've actually always been doing it. You're still doing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, if you don't mind, I'd like to share with the audience a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. This is Chris at the Whiskey A Go Go. The
That's the
original
whiskey.
Striker. Can you hear it?
I can. That was a real fun show
Yeah, that looks like a great show.
about a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you're shredding in this one.
Yeah, we like those whiskey shows.
Yeah.
It's just playing a traditional club, from the old days.
Yeah.
And they treat us really well. They're very nice people.
Well, it's a pretty famous pub, so it's a great place to put on your resume.
Yeah.
All right. The lead solo.
That's right. Rock and roll, we do it all for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people go on my personal Facebook page, they'll find this at a much higher res sound.
Oh yeah.
You know how I'm so careful about that.
Yeah. So anyway, if you like what you hear, make sure you go ahead and follow the original Striker on their Facebook page or YouTube channel, and I'll let you know when shows are coming up.
Yeah. And we have a website, which is theoriginalstriker.com. And all the music is right on the front page. So you just click and play
Cool.
Last song of the set.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun show. We brought a sound engineer with us, Jimmy, and it's probably the best sound we ever had. So and we were the support act for Steven Adler that night.
Oh, was it Steven Adler? I wasn't sure if it was the LA Guns show because
Oh, is it silly? No, it was Adler. That
Adler,
one,
yeah.
yeah,
I know you open up for LA Guns. You open up for a lot of different
yeah.
other
That
groups.
was the Adler show, and he was
Yeah,
fantastic. He
yeah.
was,
He's pretty awesome.
yeah. Thanks for playing that. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. My pleasure always. So let's talk a little bit about how you got involved with amps because you got involved at a very early age, and that's kind of why I brought up this one photo back here in the beginning
Hmm.
um, of your shop. I had to laugh because it looks like my dad's garage, but not full of Marshalls.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, so you were tricking out Marshalls very early. I mean, because I remember back in the old days, everybody was having you trick out their Marshalls. You had a special trick, whatever you did to trick out the Marshalls.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what happened is I was always trying to find, the tone of the Giants, if you will. And I had two people that were really, really instrumental. One is Tony Alamia, who I always credit because he taught me a lot about amp mods. And I'd go hang at his shop, which was in Anaheim, Garden Grove, while I was going to Golden West College. And I would hang there between classes. And he did a amp mod on my amp. And then Ed at Audio Western, and I wish I could remember Ed's last name, he did a different mod. But neither of these mods are exactly what I wanted to hear. So what I did is I started studying tube circuitry, and that allowed me to find out what was going on with these things. And then from that, I created my own design. And that was basically what I shared with everybody. Anybody who brought their amp to me, I would do that same sort of mod. And it's not a very difficult one. It was pretty simple, actually. But it got me interested in, someday building a product, although I was way away from that yet. So, but doing those amp mods taught me early on that you could, find something you were looking for as a guitar player.
Right.
You study electronics, and I was in school, so I mean, I got help from school as well. So learned a lot of things there, and then, well, as we know, the deciding or the big change was going to work for your father, which
Yes.
was life changing because I probably would have never built amplifiers had I not met your dad. I wouldn't have made that step because for those who are watching, I was a guitar player and an amp tweaker, but really making a living at that is very difficult. So you introduced me to your father, who gave me my first legitimate job in electronics. And under his tutelage and scrutiny, really, really showed me the ropes of manufacturing. And, we were a small company and we had no choice. We had to be successful. And, the fact that he came from such a solid background in the same design, manufacturing, and creating products, certainly all that rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
And that was a deciding factor for me. So now I was in an industry that, relied on parts being bought from distributors and assembly and proper assembly.
Yes.
That's what we give your dad, don't cheat, And I can remember conversations that we would have when he would see me try to sidestep something, and he'd give me that look and maybe even a growl. And
You swear it's right. There's the right way and the sturdy way. I remember that was a saying.
I can see that. I can
Yeah.
totally see that.
Yeah.
So one of his things, I think one of his terms he used to say is, "Don't be a hack," or something like that, or "That's a
Yeah.
hack," or something to that nature. So I always remembered that, and to this day, that's things have to be done properly.
Yeah.
And for me, in especially regards to the amp business, which we can get into, is that thing, my product, has always been over designed. They don't fail. They never
Yeah.
fail. In fact, people call me years later and ask me, should I send this to you for, maybe you should take a look at it? I'm like, why? If it's
Yeah.
working,
Right.
if you're afraid that maybe a bad tube, because they are tube based, then by all means send it to me. And I've had people just for the heck of it send it to me, and they're dirty and need some pots cleaned or something like that, but they're fully functional. And then I have other clients call me and say, I just wondered if maybe you'd like to, take a look at the amp. It's been many years that I've been using it, and it's my main amp, and I don't want to. People will say, but I don't want you to open it because whatever mojo's in this thing, I don't want to let it out.
Yeah.
So I mean, but all of that stems from having a basis of manufacturing and engineering, which I got from your dad.
Yeah.
That's
Well, here's a board. You probably put this one together, even, right?
yeah,
And believe it or not, I found the picture of this board on eBay.
that is
My
amazing.
dad was so excited, that he's like, "Well, I wonder if they got software."
I
So
know.
I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah, so interesting.
those first
Anyway,
boards were hand soldered. You know,
yeah,
the prototypes were all hand soldered, and your dad laid out those boards on a light table at
hmm
maybe 3 or 4 times the size, right? And then they'd reduce it to just amazing amount of work that would go in that your dad designed that. That is so cool. I've not seen that in probably 40 years.
yeah, I know it's been a while. So, uh, that's awesome. All right, so let's talk about your amps.
Sure.
Yeah. So, Songworks formed in 1994. That's when you got started building your amps for business.
Yeah, what happened, it was probably about the time I had quit music, and I had met Kim, who's my wife, of course.
Beautiful wife.
And thank you.
Mhm.
And so what I figured out is it was nice to release myself from trying to be a musician, and try to, play gigs and get signed and all that sort of stuff. So Kim and I, when we met, and keep in mind, Kim really wasn't aware of my musical background that much because I'd already kind of been sliding out of it.
Right.
So she missed the whole 80s and all that sort of stuff. But good thing.
Yeah.
But so she and I started doing like weekend trips, and this will make sense to a lot of people. And the funnest thing we ever had was to go out to like old ghost towns and things like that. And the story in California, the gold rush, I kept
hmm
hearing over and over was um, the people who made the money in the ghost towns were the people who were making the picks and shovels and supplying equipment. And that just rang in my ear.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I should build something that'll keep me interested in the music business. And then that set me on a course of several years designing the circuit. And the circuit was different than the mods that I'd done. The circuit came out to being, how do you make something very small sound very good?
Right.
And that was the essence of the first circuits. And in fact, I met a friend of mine who had heard of something that I'd never heard of. It's called the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he put up a page for me with a picture of this prototype that I'd kind of thrown together, and the phone rang.
Yeah.
The phone rang, and I think I got an email or two. But the bottom line is, all of a sudden, I I'd hit on something because at that time no one was building small miniature tube amps. Most people had left the market. Fender didn't even make one. Certainly Marshall didn't. Anybody.
Yeah.
So that took off, and as a boutique item, handmade. I was not the only guy. There was a lot of guys like me doing that sort of thing, but that ended up me being featured in monthly magazines.
Were these the ones?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the one on the one with the red grill, red colored grill.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I started getting calls, and I got calls from people, the guys in Metallica. Um, just I mean, every major guitar player wanted one of these. That's another one, yeah.
Yes.
So
So I'll move ahead because here you're talking about it. Yeah.
yeah,
There's the reviews
yeah, yep,
from Kurt Hammett,
yep,
Metallica,
yeah,
Peter Frampton,
yep.
and Dave Manichetti. He went on there and he loves it, right? He's put on 2 reviews.
Yeah, it got to be one of these little collectibles that people wanted.
Yeah.
And quick story, and I hope Warren doesn't mind, but I got a call from a mutual friend who was touring with Rat, and he put the phone to me, and it was Warren DeMartini, and Warren had gotten one as a gift, not from me, and it had broke on tour. It had fallen off of a cabinet or something. It actually snapped the knob off, and he FedExed that thing to me, and I repaired it and FedExed it back to him. And that's a give you an idea of how passionate the guys who buy these are of them, because they are
Yeah.
very unique. They got a great sound to them, and I did everything was handmade. The speaker was even handmade. The boxes, the circuitry is still to this day the exact same circuit with point to point wiring. So they're very unique. No
Mhm.
one spends that kind of attention on anything, and they're not cheap. And I don't sell a lot of them, but they are a very valid product, and I have a lot of repeat customers through word of mouth. You
Mhm.
know, which is another good point in entrepreneurship. But yeah, I've been very lucky,
Yeah.
and
I actually put a few more up.
oh, there you go.
David Gilmour, Pete
Yep,
Townsend, I mean, and
yep.
Randy Bachman and Barry.
Very,
So, formerly of Boston,
yes,
you have a big connection to the band Boston.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. The Randy Bachman story is kind of funny because he called the house and left a message, and my Kim had answered the phone, and she didn't know who he was. So she just called me and said, there's some guy, his name is Randy Bach something. I'm like, Randy Bachman? She goes, yeah. I go, oh my Lord. So he had seen it on British television. The guys in Oasis did a live uh, broadcast, which I've never seen, but they were using 2 of my amps on the BBC, and he had seen it there, and then tracked me down through the Oasis concert.
Wow.
You just never know.
That's right. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yes.
So, tell us a little bit about your relationship with this Larry Corriwell.
Coriel, yes. So
Sorry, because I mispronounced it.
that's fine. So Larry, we were reacquainted. That was a NAMM show that I met him at.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry is on my dad's first records. And my dad had seen him play at the University of Washington. He was going to get a degree in architecture, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a guitar player. And my dad had an opening and invited him to play in the individuals. And then they ended up recording one entire record together. And then I have boxes of recordings of early Coriel stuff,
Yeah.
And if you do your due diligence on Larry Coriel and look at his career, again, he's the father of jazz fusion. I was just listening to a record last night, one of his first live records, and I'd always wondered where Edward Van Halen picked up that really fast staccato playing one note and just as fast as he can play it. Well, darned if it's not on that Coriel album from 1969. I'm like,
Yeah.
there it is. And he does it a lot, as well as complex arpeggios and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, to follow who we celebrate as the giants these days, you really got to go back and look at, and hear some of these cats, especially Coriel.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And his two sons, who I've never really met, are also guitar players. So the family, that tradition, continues on. Someday I'd like to meet them.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll see this. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe so.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
So, I what I kind of wanted to mention some of your products because you've also got. Oh, where did it go? These and and kind of something that makes your sound so special is that rotary sound. I understand. So what and I'm not sure if I get that right, but that's
sure. So
getting.
I'll elaborate on that. And what I wanted to do when I created the little company was make something no one else made. That's the whole thing. It's easy to make clones of Marshalls and Fenders and Vox and everything. Good Lord, people are still doing that.
Yeah.
So mine is entirely different. And one of the items I came up with, the green one that you're showing, is it's a reverb. And old vintage amplifiers, well, even some now today, have a spring reverb. There's a spring tank that was developed. Accutronics was one of the major manufacturers of a spring tank. They were originally invented to delay telephone signals, so that you'd have a delay in a phone call. People could talk from New York or the West Coast or whatever, East Coast, West Coast, and that spring tank would delay it enough to do that. And somebody found, I don't know who it was, maybe Hammond or something, that you could get like a room sound or an echo almost effect. So anyways, I decided to put a spring tank and a foot pedal, which if you've ever played with an amp with a spring tank in it, if you push it, it'll clang, almost this, startling loud sound. So it was kind of a joke. I mean, I put it together, and it works beautifully, and it's very simple. It has there's no color to your original signal guitar, completely unaffected, which no one had ever done that either that I'm aware of. It was a very simple passive circuit. But that turned out to be a very popular pedal, and I built hundreds of those, and then I had to stop making them because Hammond was sold and no longer built them in Chicago, and unfortunately, the tank was no longer available. Well, thanks to our friends in the East, now they are available, and I've actually I'm planning on bringing that back in 2024. So that's that product, and it was called the Little Onelay Reverb Pedal. So it gives you a beautiful spring lush reverb sound without electronics. My designs are simple. I think from the guitar signal, from the pickup to the speaker, needs to be as little as possible. And the more circuitry you put in there, the more you lose what was originally created out of the pickup of the guitar. That's a whole nother area of engineering that I'm very passionate about. Now, the center one is an actual copy, if you will, or not really copy, maybe a copy, but it's influenced by the Leslie speaker. Don Leslie invented the Leslie speaker that are on Hammond organs and things like that. And I wanted to do something more for guitar, so I built it specifically for guitar. It's got a 10-inch speaker, has a rotating cone that will run at any speed, so you can actually set it to a fast warble or a choral type sound, just like the Leslie. And it's very simple too. It's got a motor drive and then 2-speed controls, and it's just a speaker, so you use the output of your amplifier. And I know I nailed it because I have sold that to many guitar players. In fact, I just built one, a custom version for Peter Frampton, and shipped that several months ago. That's his second one. Um,
Nice.
and what was it going to? Oh, yeah. The first time I took that to the NAMM show, a nice elderly gentleman came into my booth and he gave me his card and he said, "I'm here on behalf of Don Leslie." And I was like, "Uh-oh, am I infringed on something?" And he was the nicest guy. He said, "I just want to let you know that Don is aware of your product and he thinks that you're the one that's done it the right way, the best way. So he sends his wishes to you. Good luck."
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
amazing. Just
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
Don passed right after that.
Oh.
So, but that's back into production too. I had a little lull, through COVID, and actually before COVID, about 50-60% of my vendors, I use all US vendors. Some of them didn't make it, you know, so I had to retool with new sources. So it's been a long haul back, but we're there now.
Right. Just another hurdles, with supply chain issues, whether it be a pandemic or whatever. But
Yeah.
entrepreneurs have to deal with that, right? Just like,
Oh
oh
my.
no, what are we going to do now?
Well, and that's especially when you do something custom,
Yeah.
because in my case, my transform, it's a UL listed transformer, and but it was a full custom. Well, that company went out of business, and that left me hanging forever.
Oh dear.
Information with a transformer company that's still in business and locally here in California, and they actually went over and bought the company that went out of business, all of their materials, transformer bobbins, winding machines. They bought everything. So the new company was able to tool up and build me my exact part, which is,
Yeah.
I don't know how often that happens, but manufacturing in the States has changed over the years so
It
much.
certainly has. It certainly has. That was my background, and obviously we worked together on some. But it all went out of the country pretty much, and then you're dealing with having to deal with that whole different
Yeah.
situation. So,
Yeah. Yep.
all right. Well, I think this last picture. Well, the little. Okay, this is this. Well, let's make sure. Is this the newest one?
So that is called the Hilo Watt. I call that, and that's branded with my name.
Mm-hmm.
The last name of the company or the name of the company is my last name, and that is based on a more of a Marshall-esque type circuit,
Mm-hmm.
which is switchable. So it became a suggestion by customers where they wanted a more traditional style of amplifier. And that's where that one came from. That one is also 8 by 8 by 8 inches. It's just a
Yeah, it's
cube.
tiny with
It's,
monster sound.
that's right. It's 33 watts. It's capable of driving not one, but two 412 cabinets at concert volume, stage volume.
Yeah.
Um, so that's that one. And then also containing a 6.5 inch speaker. And then
Mm-hmm.
the Lana Lay, which was before that, the little Lana Lay was the first amp.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, which one?
That one, and then keep going. There you go.
That one.
Yes.
Yeah. That
So
was your first one.
yeah, that was the first one, and now that still exists for sale. But
Uh-huh.
what I did with that one is it wasn't so high gain, even though it was pretty high gain means that it distorts.
Right.
So with this one, I kind of went a little more lighter on that. Also, is selectable via a toggle switch in the back. So people hear that one and are fine with the amount of gain that they get out of it. And my circuit's unique in that it works on low voltage. There's no high voltage in there. And one of my things about guitar amplifiers is you seem to have a lot of amps that have a real shrill, kind of a brittle sound to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that way. They're very warm sounding, very soft clip, if you will. And I think that's why guitar players have latched onto them. You know.
Yeah, all the grades, huh? It's just I was just like amazed at when I was looking at the ones, your customer base. It's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good, and my two sons have helped me through the years. My oldest son Liam, who
Hmm.
is an entrepreneur himself, and
Yes, I'm looking forward to meeting him.
he's something else. He was always you know helping me, trying to be more organized, and try, 'cause that's the kind of kid he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my youngest son Aiden has actually been doing some assembly for me,
Oh, oh, nice.
yeah, his work is just gorgeous. So between these two guys, I mean, I want them to continue on their own lives,
Right.
but it's nice that they're there for dad too.
Yeah, train them up though, and then they have skills when they go out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it obviously, Pat, you passed it on to him. Liam's doing, his he's doing really well with his business. So
yes, he is. Yeah.
yeah, that's really really awesome.
He might be a good consideration for your show,
I
actually.
know. Well, I'm going to ask him about it. So
You should.
definitely going to ask him about it
Yeah.
because it'd be great to get, some younger entrepreneurs on the show that, have really. It's such a different environment, from starting a business from when we started businesses to what it is like today.
Hmm.
Um, you know, a lot of things are maybe easier, but there's but the general theme, I still believe um, it's never easy. It's never going to be just easy. People, oh, I'm going to work for myself and I don't have to, I can work when I want to. But, if you go into it with that kind of attitude, you're really not going to be successful because you really, really have to be passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
That, again, that you're willing to put the effort into it, because you might enjoy it for a little while, but when it comes down to it, you run in, have issues, and you just want to give up or what. It's not like we don't, right? I don't know how many times I tell them, oh my God, should I even be doing this? What am I doing? you
Yeah.
know as things get tough, but we just pull ourselves up with the bootstraps and we just keep going because that's what we got to do because we're passionate about it. And
That's it.
so, yeah.
Being an entrepreneur is unforgiving, but if it's in your blood, you thrive on that.
Yeah.
And certainly Liam, he thrives on it. And I like, hey, can we? He's actually living currently out of state, but I want to like take him out to lunch or something, or go do something with him. He goes, I just don't have the time. It's like, oh my gosh, he's
Right.
so dedicated, but I get it, and I'm just blown away by his intensity to do that.
Right.
More
Yeah.
than me. I mean, he's got way more intensity than I do. But I'm kind of an artistic guy too, right?
Right.
And he's a businessman through and through. He's a businessman.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, you're kind of using both sides of your brains because you got the electronics and the technical stuff, and then you got your music and everything to be creative.
Yep.
And kind of the reason I'm doing these videos, to be honest with you, it's like accounting and tax camp. It's not that exciting, but it's like, what can I do to help, bring something of value and have fun while doing it, So I kind of thought, wow, let's like interview entrepreneurs, and this could be really fun. And I'm just really, really grateful for you coming on with me today, Tris, and
Thank
talking
you.
about your story and sharing about your products and giving your experience. Sharing a little bit about your experience. I'm just really grateful that people have said they wanted to come in and do this with me. I've got a couple other shows coming up. One with Randy
Great.
Gill with Grants for Guns. He in Costa Mesa, if you might be familiar with him, and
Yeah.
Allison Mason from Metal Babe Mayhem, and
Okay.
she does rock and roll clothing and jewelry and so forth. So she's going to come on, and yes, I definitely want to get Liam to come on and do one
Yeah.
with me because I just think that would be really awesome. So, and we got many more to go. And again, Tris, I wanted to thank you for coming on and spending
Thank you.
your time with me and our
Easy.
audience. And um, again, thank you. And we will talk to you really soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jenée. I think what you're doing is fantastic. Keep going, build it, roll with it. It's awesome.
All right.
I've
Okay.
already been talking to you so for some things of questions I have, so that won't stop.
Okay. Hey, please. Yeah. Just ask questions. That's why the show's Ask Jenée. So,
Ask Jenée. All right. Take care.
okay. Thanks, Tris.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.